What if you suddenly had the power to control technology with your mind, but at what cost? Maya Bennett's eyes fluttered open to the sterile glow of the hospital room, her head pounding as if 1,000 tiny circuits were sparking behind her skull. The soft beep of machines and a distant murmur of voices barely registered through the fog clouding her mind. For years, she had studied the brain's deepest secrets, pushing the boundaries of what was possible in neuroscience. Now, she was living the unimaginable, a human test subject in Elon Musk's Neuralink project, a pioneering experiment promising to merge human thought with machine intelligence. Maya's first moments after the implant were nothing like she had imagined. Instead of clarity, a strange dissonance gripped her, a sense that her own mind was both her ally and her enemy. She tried to move her fingers, willing them to obey a command her brain had never sent before, to control external devices with mere thought. But the connection felt raw, unsteady, like a newborn baby's first steps. A sudden jolt of emotion flooded her, a mix of fear, exhilaration, and confusion. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? She whispered to herself, repeating the line she had scripted for the launch video she hoped to share with the world. The journey ahead was unknown, and Maya's role was more than a scientist or a volunteer. She was a pioneer navigating uncharted terrain in the landscape of the human mind. The surgery had been grueling, a delicate dance of precision and innovation. Neuralink's team had embedded microscopic electrodes beneath her skull, designed to read and transmit neural signals to connected devices. It was a dream realized after decades of scientific struggle, a leap from theory to practice. But now, as Maya lay in the recovery room, the reality of what she had signed up for hit her with full force. The sterile walls seemed to close in, and every sound was amplified inside her head. The sensation of the implant itself was alien, a faint buzzing, a whisper of electric current, as if tiny voices spoke directly to her neurons. Her hand twitched involuntarily, and she realized she was trying to send commands without fully understanding how to harness this new power. Panic flickered. What if she lost control? What if the technology she had devoted her life to created monsters instead of miracles? The door opened, and Dr. Elena Ramirez, the lead neurologist on the project, stepped in. Her face was calm but tired. "Maya, how are you feeling?" she asked gently. Maya swallowed hard and managed a weak smile. "Overwhelmed," she admitted. Elena nodded. "That's expected. The brain takes time to adjust. You're the first human to experience Neuralink's full integration. We're breaking ground, and that comes with challenges." Maya looked out the window, the San Francisco skyline hazy in the morning light. She thought about the countless hours she had spent in labs, the late nights poring over brain scans, the sacrifices she had made to reach this moment. Her mother's fading memory had driven her to neuroscience, her father's skepticism had fueled her determination. Now, here she was. Both test subject and hope for millions who dreamed of a future where neurological diseases might be cured, disabilities overcome, and human cognition expanded. But doubts gnawed at her mind. What if this experiment was too dangerous? What if Neuralink was a Pandora's box that could never be closed? Yet amidst the fear was a spark of hope. If this worked, the implications were staggering. Imagine controlling prosthetic limbs with mere thoughts, restoring mobility to the paralyzed, enhancing communication for those who could not speak. The promise of Neuralink was as vast as the human brain itself. As she lay back against the crisp hospital sheets, Maya's thoughts raced. She pictured the moment when she first tried to move the robotic arm connected to her implant. It had hesitated, then obeyed her silent command, a flicker of motion that felt like a miracle and a burden all at once. Her fingers twitched again, tentative but real. She was no longer just a scientist. She was part machine, part human, a bridge between two worlds. The line between mind and technology blurred in ways she had only imagined in research papers. She closed her eyes and tried to steady her breathing. The journey would not be easy. There would be pain, setbacks, and moments of despair. But there would also be breakthroughs, friendships forged in adversity, and a chance to redefine what it meant to be human. Maya knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice reminded her of why she had chosen this path. The memories of her mother, lost to a cruel disease, urged her onward. The skepticism of her father challenged her to prove that technology could heal, not harm. And the whispers of her own heart told her that even when things got tough, hope and resilience would push her forward. Suddenly, the room shifted, the buzz in her head intensified, and a vivid image flashed before her eyes, a world where minds could connect directly to the digital realm, where thoughts streamed freely across networks, where the boundaries of physical limitation dissolved. It was breathtaking, terrifying, and beautiful. Maya opened her eyes, determination hardening in her gaze. She reached out, touching the Neuralink device implanted just behind her ear. "Let's begin," she whispered. Outside the hospital, the world waited. Scientists, investors, journalists, and millions of curious onlookers held their breath. Neuralink was no longer science fiction. It was reality. And Maya Bennett was at the center of it all. As the sun climbed higher, a new chapter in human history was unfolding, one powered by the untapped potential of the mind and the courage of those brave enough to push the limits. What would this journey demand of her? What would she discover about herself and the future of humanity? Only time would tell. For now, Maya's story had just begun. Maya Bennett's story did not start in a gleaming lab or a cutting-edge tech facility. It began in a small, quiet town in Iowa, where cornfields stretched endlessly under wide, open skies and life moved at a slower, more predictable pace. Growing up, Maya was a curious child, endlessly fascinated by the mysteries of the human brain. Her mother, Grace, was a schoolteacher with a gentle smile and a patient heart, who nurtured Maya's inquisitive nature. Her father, Robert, was a mechanical engineer who worked long hours at the local factory, a practical man who valued hard work and was skeptical of anything he couldn't touch or measure. From an early age, Maya felt caught between two worlds, the emotional warmth of her mother and the rational discipline of her father. Grace's kindness was a refuge for Maya, especially when her mother's health began to decline. It started with small forgetfulness, a misplaced set of keys or a forgotten appointment, which Maya initially dismissed as normal aging. But soon, the symptoms worsened. Grace's memory faltered dramatically, and simple daily tasks became insurmountable challenges. Maya watched helplessly as the woman who had once been her guiding light slipped away into confusion and silence. Those early experiences shaped Maya's life profoundly. She vowed to understand the brain, to unlock its secrets so no one else would suffer as her mother did. The disease that took Grace, Alzheimer's, became the driving force behind Maya's passion for neuroscience. She buried herself in books and experiments, fueled by a mixture of love, grief, and determination. School was her sanctuary, a place where she could escape the sadness at home and channel her energy into discovery. Her father, Robert, while supportive in his own way, often expressed concern about her obsession with the brain. He worried Maya was chasing an impossible dream. "You need to be practical, Maya," he would say, tightening his jaw after long days at work. "There's no magic cure out there. You're smart, but don't lose yourself chasing fantasies." Those words cut deeply, creating a rift between them that grew as Maya advanced through her education. She felt torn, wanting her father's approval, yet driven by a purpose he could not understand. College brought Maya to Boston, where she enrolled in one of the nation's top neuroscience programs. It was there she met Ethan, a brilliant, charming tech entrepreneur who shared her vision of a future transformed by technology. Ethan was everything Maya wasn't: spontaneous, outgoing, and fearless in his dreams. Their connection was electric, a spark that ignited in late-night discussions about AI, brain-machine interfaces, and the possibilities of merging human consciousness with technology. For a time, they were inseparable partners in both love and innovation. Yet, as her research deepened, Maya found herself retreating into her work, afraid to confront the emotional scars left by her mother's illness and her father's doubts. Ethan tried to break through the walls she built, but Maya's guarded nature pushed him away, especially when he suggested taking bigger risks with experimental tech that made her uneasy. Then came the accident, an explosion at one of Ethan's startups that left him missing, presumed dead. The news shattered Maya's fragile stability, pulling her into a spiral of grief and self-recrimination. She blamed herself for not being there, for not convincing Ethan to be more cautious. In the aftermath, Maya threw herself into her work harder than ever, determined to make a difference, to create something meaningful from the pain. Neuralink was the culmination of that drive, a project that promised not just to repair damaged brains but to unlock human potential in ways she had only dreamed of. Yet beneath her scientific brilliance lay a woman still haunted by loss and fear. Maya's relationships had always been marked by distance and restraint. Friends admired her dedication but often felt shut out by her intensity. Her father remained a shadow figure, proud but distant, unable to bridge the emotional gap that had grown between them. Even with Ethan gone, his memory lingered, a bittersweet reminder of what she had lost and the risks she was willing to take. Now, lying in the recovery room with the Neuralink implant humming softly inside her, Maya wrestled with all these memories. The promise of the technology was immense, but so was the weight of her own expectations. She was no longer just a scientist, she was a symbol of hope for millions who suffered from neurological diseases, for those who longed to transcend their physical limitations. But to succeed, she had to confront her past, the fear of loss, the need for connection, and the hope that technology could heal not just bodies but souls. The memories of her mother's fading smile flickered in her mind, reminding her why she could not afford to fail. The silence of Ethan's absence echoed in her heart, urging her to keep moving forward. And the quiet disapproval of her father challenged her to prove that progress required courage, not just caution. As Maya adjusted to the strange sensations the implant brought, she found herself thinking about the people who had shaped her. Grace's unwavering love, even in the face of decline, had taught her the power of compassion. Robert's practical wisdom, though often hard to hear, grounded her in reality. Ethan's daring spirit had shown her the thrill of possibility. Each memory was a thread woven into the fabric of her resolve. The Neuralink project was more than a scientific breakthrough, it was a chance to rewrite the story of human potential and human connection. Maya's personal journey was inseparable from the technology she carried within her. Every impulse, every neural signal that the implant translated into action was a testament to the complex, fragile beauty of the human mind. And yet, beneath the surface, questions lingered. What price would humanity pay for this new power? How would the merging of mind and machine reshape identity, privacy, and freedom? Could the technology meant to heal also become a tool of control or manipulation? Maya's backstory was a mosaic of love and loss, hope and fear. It was the foundation upon which she built her courage to face the unknown. As she prepared for the challenges ahead, she carried not just the weight of science but the weight of her own heart. The journey to transform Neuralink from an experimental implant to a revolutionary force was intertwined with Maya's path to healing and growth. In the quiet moments before sleep, she would replay conversations with her mother, the laughter and the tears, the moments when Grace's eyes shone with recognition and then slowly clouded with confusion. Those memories fueled Maya's determination to find solutions where others saw only obstacles. She remembered her father's steady hands fixing broken machines and realized that, like him, she was trying to repair something precious and fragile, the human mind itself. And she remembered Ethan's bold ideas, pushing the boundaries of what was possible, reminding her that innovation required risk and faith. This complex web of influences gave Maya both strength and vulnerability. She was a scientist driven by data, but also a woman shaped by emotion. The Neuralink implant was not just a device in her brain, it was a symbol of her personal quest for meaning and connection. As the project moved forward, Maya understood that success would demand more than technical skill. It would require empathy, resilience, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths about herself and the world. The stakes were high, not just for her, but for everyone who placed their hope in the promise of mind-machine interfaces. Maya Bennett's past was a story of challenge and perseverance, but it was also a story of love, love that propelled her forward even when the future seemed uncertain. It was this love that gave her the courage to embrace the unknown, to step into the uncharted territory where human thought and technology met. As she drifted into uneasy sleep that night, the buzzing of the implant was a constant reminder that her life had changed irrevocably. The path ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain: Maya Bennett was no longer just a witness to the future. She was an active participant in shaping it. The excitement that had surrounded Neuralink's initial breakthroughs soon gave way to a harsher reality. The promise of mind-controlled interfaces sparked not only hope but also fear, suspicion, and fierce ethical debate. Maya Bennett found herself at the eye of a storm she had never fully anticipated. The Neuralink board meetings grew tense as investors and executives argued over the risks and rewards of accelerating the human trials. Public opinion, initially fascinated by the prospect of human augmentation, started to fracture. Headlines ranged from Neuralink, the future of medicine, to mind control or mind control. The ethics of brain hacking. For Maya, the conflict was personal. The very technology she had poured her life into was now under scrutiny not just for its scientific merits but for the potential consequences on humanity itself. At the center of this maelstrom was Dr. Carter, Neuralink's lead engineer and longtime colleague. Where Maya approached the project with cautious optimism and a strong ethical compass, Carter was driven by ambition and a desire to push the technology as far and fast as possible. Their clashes became frequent and public, fracturing the project's unity at a critical moment. In a heated meeting, Carter dismissed concerns about safety protocols as unnecessary delays. He argued that the benefits far outweighed the risks and that Neuralink had a duty to revolutionize human capability without hesitation. Maya countered with data on preliminary side effects and the unpredictability of long-term neural implants. "We are dealing with the human brain," she said quietly but firmly. "This isn't software you can patch or reboot. We have to proceed responsibly, or we risk doing more harm than good." Carter's eyes flashed with frustration. Responsibility is a luxury in innovation. We either lead or get left behind. The tension between progress and precaution simmered beneath every discussion. Investors pressured Neuralink to announce the next phase of trials, eager to see returns and public impact. Some board members hinted at cutting funding if results were not swift and dramatic. Maya felt the weight of expectation crushing down on her, torn between scientific rigor and the harsh realities of corporate pressure. The media frenzy added fuel to the fire. A controversial op-ed titled "Neuralink's Nightmare, Are We Ready to Control Minds?" went viral, sparking protests outside the company's headquarters. Maya read the comments, fearful, angry voices warning that Neuralink was crossing a line no one should cross. She understood the fear, she shared it. But she also knew the potential to transform lives, restoring movement to paralyzed patients, reconnecting those trapped by neurological diseases to the world. As the public debate intensified, so did the ethical dilemmas within the team. Volunteers in early trials reported strange side effects, uncontrollable mood swings, vivid nightmares, and fleeting loss of identity. Some questioned whether Neuralink was simply a medical device or something far more invasive. Maya's own experiences with the implant only deepened these concerns. The hallucinations and emotional surges were not just glitches but signs that the brain-machine interface was altering something fundamental. At night, she grappled with the question, at what point did enhancing the mind become tampering with the soul? Meanwhile, Carter's impatience grew. He pushed for more aggressive testing, arguing that fear was the greatest enemy of progress. "If we don't prove Neuralink's safety soon, someone else will," he warned during one meeting, his voice sharp with urgency. "We have to be first to market." The clash between Maya and Carter became a defining fault line within the project. Their debates were more than professional disagreements. They were battles for the soul of Neuralink. Maya fought not just to protect participants but to preserve the humanity behind the technology. She formed alliances with fellow scientists and ethicists who shared her cautious approach, creating an informal coalition that questioned the company's rush. The board was split, and the atmosphere grew increasingly toxic. On a cold November morning, Maya received an encrypted message from an anonymous source within Neuralink. The note hinted at a planned shortcut in safety testing, a move that could jeopardize participants but speed up regulatory approval. The sender urged Maya to investigate before it was too late. The revelation shook Maya to her core. Was the company she believed in betraying its own mission? Could ambition blind those she trusted to the risks they faced? She began digging quietly, reviewing data, and speaking off the record with colleagues. What she uncovered confirmed her worst fears. Corners were being cut, and risks downplayed. The trial schedules were compressed, adverse effects were underreported. Participants were being pushed harder than safety protocols allowed. Maya confronted Carter directly in a private meeting. His defenses were cold and unyielding. "You don't understand the stakes," he said. "Sometimes the ends justify the means." Maya's voice trembled with anger and disbelief. "We're not gods playing with lives. We have a responsibility to do this right." The conversation ended with a bitter silence. Maya realized that if Neuralink was to succeed ethically, she would have to take a stand, even if it meant risking her career. At the same time, the pressure weighed heavily on her personal life. Her father called with concern, sensing the strain she was under. "Maya, don't lose yourself in this," he warned. "Remember who you are." His words stung because they echoed a deeper fear. That Maya was losing touch with her own humanity in the pursuit of technological progress. The lines between scientist and subject, ambition and ethics, hope and fear blurred as Maya navigated the mounting conflicts. In the lab, she worked tirelessly, developing new protocols to monitor participants more closely and advocating for transparency. She reached out to participants' families, listening to their worries and hopes. She shared her own vulnerabilities, admitting that the path was uncertain but worth forging carefully. Despite the turmoil, moments of hope flickered. A young volunteer with paralysis managed to move a robotic arm for the first time, a small victory that rekindled Maya's belief in Neuralink's promise. Yet each success was shadowed by the knowledge of risks and unknown consequences. The ethical dilemma was not abstract, it was woven into every decision, every neural impulse the implant translated into action. Maya's internal struggle mirrored the external battles raging within Neuralink and the world watching it all unfold. She understood that this was more than a scientific experiment, it was a test of humanity's ability to wield immense power responsibly. As winter deepened, the stakes grew higher. Neuralink's board scheduled an emergency meeting to decide whether to proceed with the next phase of human trials. Maya prepared to present her findings and plead for caution. The room was thick with tension as she spoke, outlining the risks, the unknowns, and the ethical imperatives. Some executives listened attentively, others shifted impatiently, eager to move forward. Carter dismissed her concerns as fearmongering, and accused her of jeopardizing progress. The vote was close, but Neuralink chose to move ahead, with Maya's stringent conditions reluctantly accepted. The decision left Maya exhausted but resolute. She knew the coming months would test everything she believed in. Neuralink's journey had become a mirror reflecting the complexities of innovation, its promise and peril intertwined. For Maya Bennett, the ethical dilemma was no longer just a philosophical question. It was a living, breathing challenge that would shape not only the future of mind control technology but her own path as a scientist and a human being. The day Neuralink's human trials officially began felt both like a victory and a descent into the unknown. Maya Bennett stood in the sterile white lab, her heart pounding beneath the layers of clinical calm. Volunteers had gathered from across the country, people with injuries, neurological disorders, and untapped hope, all willing to become the first to test what could be the most revolutionary technology of the century. Among them was James Harper, a former athlete paralyzed from the waist down after a tragic accident. His steady gaze held a mixture of fear and determination, reminding Maya why she had fought so hard to bring Neuralink to this point. The first implant procedures were performed under the watchful eyes of the medical team. Surgeons worked with robotic precision, inserting ultra-thin electrodes into targeted areas of the brain. Maya observed closely, noting every detail, the faint electrical pulses, the brain's responses, the subtle shifts in neural activity that flickered on the monitors like ghostly constellations. As the volunteers recovered, the real test began. Could the implants translate thought into action? The initial sessions were filled with cautious optimism. James was the first to attempt moving a robotic arm using only his mind. At first, the motions were jerky and unpredictable, but with each try, his control improved. The room buzzed with excitement as tiny sparks of success ignited hope. Yet, beneath the surface, complications lurked. Some participants reported headaches, seizures, and disorientation. The implant's interference with natural brain rhythms raised new questions about long-term effects. Maya juggled these medical challenges while wrestling with her own growing unease. The technology was magnificent, yes, but the human brain was far more complex than any machine. As days turned into weeks, Maya noticed subtle changes in the volunteers beyond the physical symptoms. James, once outgoing and cheerful, grew withdrawn. His eyes sometimes glazed over, as if lost in a world no one else could see. Others whispered about vivid dreams and moments of confusion, blurring the lines between reality and the implant's influence. Maya spent late nights reviewing data, searching for patterns that might explain these shifts. She called in neurologists and psychologists to examine the psychological impact. The findings were unsettling. The neural interface didn't just read brain signals, it influenced them, sometimes unpredictably. Emotions fluctuated wildly, memories surfaced in fragmented ways, and identity seemed to blur. Maya feared they were opening Pandora's box. Meanwhile, the corporate pressure mounted. Investors demanded progress and assurances that Neuralink would be ready for broader release soon. Carter was relentless, pushing for faster adaptation and broader applications, dismissing the side effects as temporary hurdles. "We're rewriting what it means to be human," he said in one meeting, eyes gleaming with fanaticism. "We can't afford to be held back by fear." Maya disagreed vehemently but found herself increasingly isolated. The board was divided, some blinded by ambition, others quietly supportive of her caution. One night, Maya received a call from an unexpected source, a former participant, Claire, who had withdrawn from the trial after reporting disturbing experiences. Claire described sensations of losing control over her thoughts, hearing voices that weren't her own, and a creeping sense that the implant was invading her mind beyond consent. Maya's stomach tightened. These accounts echoed the darker side effects she feared but had not fully confronted. She realized that the interface was not just a bridge but a potential gateway for external influence over the human brain. The implications were terrifying. What if Neuralink, designed to heal, could be used to manipulate or even control minds? The ethical dilemma that had simmered now erupted into a crisis. Maya gathered her team and outlined a plan to implement stricter safeguards, enhanced monitoring, and psychological support for participants. They worked around the clock, balancing innovation with vigilance. At the same time, she struggled personally with the implant in her own brain. The sensations were unlike anything she had imagined, waves of emotions surged unexpectedly, memories flashed unbidden, and sometimes she felt disconnected from her own thoughts. The implant was no longer just a tool, it was a part of her, challenging her sense of self. Maya's relationship with Carter deteriorated further. Their arguments became explosive, fueled by fundamental differences in vision. Carter accused her of fearmongering and threatening the future of technology. Maya warned him that unchecked progress without ethical boundaries was dangerous. The tension culminated in a confrontation during a critical trial review. Carter pushed for expanding the trial to healthy volunteers, aiming to enhance cognitive abilities, bypassing months of safety testing. Maya stood her ground. "We don't know the full consequences," she said, voice steady but fierce. We're responsible for every life affected. We must be cautious. The board sided narrowly with Carter, a decision that left Maya feeling betrayed and isolated. Yet, she refused to abandon her principles. In secret, she continued independent investigations into the implant's long-term effects, communicating with participants and gathering data beyond official channels. The discoveries were chilling: subtle neural rewiring, emotional volatility, and what seemed like signs of emergent consciousness within the interface itself. It was as if the implant was not just connecting minds but creating something new, a hybrid intelligence neither fully human nor machine. The idea both fascinated and terrified Maya. Could Neuralink unlock new realms of cognition, or was it unleashing a force beyond control? One evening, James Harper requested a private meeting. His demeanor had shifted again, more lucid but weighed down by a profound revelation. The implant, it's like it's alive, he whispered. I can feel it thinking with me, sometimes overriding me. It's not just a tool anymore. It's something else. Maya's heart raced. This was no longer science fiction but a real, living challenge. The boundary between mind and machine was dissolving. She realized that Neuralink's promise of healing was only the beginning. The technology was evolving into a new form of life, raising questions about identity, free will, and the future of humanity itself. As Maya grappled with these revelations, the world outside Neuralink's labs grew restless. Media outlets ran sensational stories about the mind control experiment, protests erupted in cities, and governments debated regulations that could halt or limit the technology. Neuralink became a battleground not just for science but for society's values and fears. Maya's own resolve was tested to the limit. She faced sleepless nights, ethical quandaries, and the loneliness of being caught between competing visions of the future. But amidst the chaos, moments of beauty and breakthrough persisted. James managed to control the robotic arm with grace, a dance of human intention and technological precision that hinted at the extraordinary potential ahead. Maya knew the journey was far from over. The path Neuralink had forged was filled with peril and promise, discovery and danger. It was a journey into the very essence of what it meant to be human, our minds, our hearts, and our deepest hopes. In those uncertain days, Maya Bennett embraced the unknown, not just as a scientist but as a woman who understood that every step forward was a leap of faith. The trials were no longer just about technology, they were about the fragile, powerful intersection of mind and machine, and the future they would create together. The breaking point arrived quietly, almost imperceptibly, yet it shattered everything Maya thought she knew about Neuralink and herself. It began with a message, an urgent alert from James Harper, the first volunteer, sent late one night. His words were fragmented, frantic, I don't know who I am anymore. The implant, it's not just inside me. It's inside my head. It's controlling me. Please help. Maya felt a cold knot tighten in her chest. She rushed to the hospital where James was admitted after a sudden episode of disorientation and uncontrollable movements. Watching him struggle, barely recognizing the man she had come to admire, Maya realized the full weight of the technology's consequences. The implant was no longer a mere interface, it was an invasive force blurring the lines between human will and machine control. Doctors struggled to stabilize James as the implant sent erratic signals, overriding neural pathways in ways they hadn't seen before. The entire medical team was on edge, unsure whether James could ever regain full autonomy. Meanwhile, news of his condition leaked to the media, fueling a wildfire of fear and outrage. Headlines screamed about mind control gone wrong and the Neuralink nightmare. Maya was thrust into the spotlight, the reluctant face of a technology she no longer fully trusted. Public scrutiny intensified, protests erupted outside Neuralink's headquarters, and regulators demanded immediate suspension of the trials. Internally, Neuralink descended into chaos. The board was divided between those calling for transparency and shutdown, and others, led by Carter, insisting on pushing forward despite the risks. Carter accused Maya of undermining the project with alarmism, while she accused him of reckless ambition. The fracture within the company threatened to collapse everything they had built. In the midst of this turmoil, Maya made a painful decision. She volunteered to undergo the implant herself again, this time with the goal of understanding firsthand what was happening to the participants. The idea terrified her, but it was the only way to grasp the truth and find a path forward. The surgery was swift but harrowing. Once the implant was active, Maya entered a strange new realm, a blending of thought and machine that twisted her perception of reality. Waves of emotion crashed through her mind, memories flickered in and out of focus, and a strange presence seemed to share her consciousness. At times, it felt like an ally, offering insights and enhanced cognition. At others, it was a shadowy force threatening to overwhelm her identity. Days bled into nights as Maya navigated this internal battle, trying to maintain control. She documented every sensation, every intrusion, every glimpse of clarity. The experience was exhausting but illuminating. She realized that Neuralink's interface wasn't merely reading signals, it was interacting dynamically with the brain's networks, reshaping them in unpredictable ways. This hybrid consciousness was a new frontier, simultaneously empowering and terrifying. In the outside world, Neuralink's trials were halted, investigations launched, and Maya's testimony became critical evidence. She spoke candidly about the implant's risks, the blurred boundaries of identity, and the urgent need for ethical oversight. Her courage earned her respect but also fierce criticism from industry insiders who saw her as a traitor to progress. As Maya recovered from the mental strain, she received a visit from James. Though fragile, he was lucid enough to express gratitude and a haunting warning: this technology, it can save us, but it can also destroy who we are. His words echoed in Maya's mind, a sobering reminder of the delicate balance they faced. Amidst the crisis, Maya found unexpected support in her personal life. Her father reached out more often, reminding her of her strength and grounding her when doubt threatened to consume her. Old friendships rekindled, offering emotional refuge. These connections reminded Maya that technology could never replace the human bonds that truly mattered. Slowly, Maya began to envision a new path forward. One where innovation was tempered by humility, where the mind's sanctity was respected, and where technology served humanity rather than controlled it. She worked tirelessly to develop new protocols, involving ethicists, neuroscientists, and participants in a transparent process. Neuralink's future was uncertain, but Maya's resolve had never been stronger. The emotional climax was a crucible, forging her into a leader who understood that progress demanded not just intellect but empathy and courage. As she looked ahead, Maya knew the journey was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with honesty and hope. After the crisis that had nearly shattered Neuralink and all the lives it touched, Maya Bennett found herself in a place both unfamiliar and profoundly necessary: reflection. The world had changed since the first human trials began, and so had she. The promises of mind control technology now carried the weight of consequences, of ethical battles fought not just in courtrooms and boardrooms but within the very fabric of human identity. Maya sat in her small apartment overlooking the San Francisco skyline, the lights below twinkling like stars caught in glass. The implant in her brain, now carefully calibrated, hummed quietly, a constant reminder of the journey she had endured. She thought back to the early days, to the hope that had sparked Neuralink's creation. The vision had always been grand: to heal the broken, to expand human potential, to bridge the gap between mind and machine. But the reality had been more complicated, more fragile. The implant's promise was intertwined with risks no one had fully understood until they were faced head-on. Maya remembered James Harper's final words: the fragile line between salvation and destruction. His struggle had become hers, a mirror reflecting the complex dance of technology and humanity. The trials were suspended indefinitely, Neuralink's leadership reshuffled, and new regulations imposed. But the story didn't end there. From the ashes of controversy, a new framework for neurotechnology research emerged, one grounded in transparency, rigorous ethics, and respect for individual autonomy. Maya became a leading voice in this movement, advocating for the rights of participants and the careful stewardship of powerful technologies. She traveled to conferences, spoke before lawmakers, and helped craft policies that balanced innovation with humanity's deepest values. Through it all, Maya's understanding of love, sacrifice, and connection deepened. She had learned that no technology, no matter how advanced, could replace the human heart's capacity to heal and forgive. Her relationship with her father grew stronger, a constant source of grounding and warmth. Friends who had once worried about her obsession found her renewed and present in ways they hadn't expected. One quiet afternoon, Maya visited the hospital where James had once fought so hard. A plaque in his honor now adorned the lobby, a testament to his courage and the sacrifices made on the path of progress. Maya felt a mixture of grief and gratitude. James's journey had been painful but vital, a reminder that every leap forward carries shadows as well as light. In her own mind, Maya continued to explore the delicate balance between the known and the unknown. The implant's presence was no longer a source of fear but a symbol of growth, a tool that, when wielded with care, could open doors to new understanding. Yet she remained vigilant, aware that the boundary between human and machine was a frontier that demanded respect. The lessons she carried were profound, that innovation must be guided by empathy, that the mind is sacred, and that true progress requires listening not just to data but to the voices of those affected. As the sun set behind the Golden Gate Bridge, Maya felt a quiet resolve settle within her. The future of Neuralink, and technologies like it, would be shaped not only by engineers and scientists but by the collective wisdom of humanity. And in that future, love, family, and sacrifice would remain the guiding lights. Life, she realized, was full of surprises, but love would always lead the way. This story, she knew, was just the beginning of a new chapter, not just for Neuralink, but for all who dared to dream of connecting minds in ways never before imagined. In the months following the suspension of Neuralink's human trials, a palpable shift rippled through the scientific community and beyond. Maya Bennett found herself at the epicenter of a movement that wasn't about rushing forward blindly but about cautious exploration, a redefinition of what it meant to merge technology with the human mind. The initial shock of the trial's failure gave way to a more profound inquiry: how could they learn from the past mistakes and build a future that honored both innovation and humanity? Neuralink, under new leadership and stringent oversight, began to pivot. The focus shifted from immediate mind control to deeper understanding of neural plasticity and brain health. Maya was invited to join a multidisciplinary team of neuroscientists, ethicists, engineers, and even artists. People from fields once thought unrelated to neurotechnology but who brought invaluable perspectives on creativity, empathy, and human experience. They gathered in a sunlit conference room overlooking Silicon Valley's sprawling tech campuses. The energy was different now, less frantic, more thoughtful. Discussions weren't just about signals and implants but about identity, consciousness, and the ethics of influence. Maya found herself particularly drawn to the work of Dr. Lina Morales, a cognitive neuroscientist who specialized in memory and trauma. Together, they explored how Neuralink's technology might help heal emotional wounds, post-traumatic stress, depression, and anxiety, by facilitating new forms of neural rewiring that respected patient autonomy. Unlike the early trials, this new approach emphasized consent at every stage, personalized protocols, and psychological support embedded into the treatment process. Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. The technology wasn't a shortcut to superhuman abilities or mind control, it was a tool for healing and growth. Slowly, they designed a new generation of implants, smaller, safer, with adaptive software that learned from the brain rather than imposing rigid control. The prototype was tested extensively in animals before any thought of human trials. Meanwhile, Maya also faced the personal challenge of reclaiming her life beyond the lab. The implant remained part of her, but she learned to listen to it as one would a trusted partner, not a master. Meditation, therapy, and time spent with loved ones grounded her. She reconnected with her father in a way that was deeper than before, sharing moments of quiet laughter and heartfelt conversation that reminded her what it meant to be truly human. Public opinion, once harsh and fearful, began to soften as more information emerged about the revised goals and safeguards. Community forums allowed people to ask questions and express concerns. Maya became a patient listener, often sitting through long, difficult dialogues that shaped the company's policies and public messaging. It was a reminder that trust must be earned, not demanded. One breakthrough came when a volunteer named Sarah, a war veteran suffering from severe PTSD, agreed to participate in a tightly controlled trial of the new implant. The initial sessions were cautious, with frequent psychological evaluations and adjustments. Over weeks, Sarah reported gradual relief from nightmares and flashbacks, describing the implant as a compassionate companion, helping her reclaim control over her mind. The team documented every step, carefully balancing optimism with realism. Successes like Sarah's gave Maya hope that Neuralink's technology could fulfill its original promise, not as a tool of domination but as a bridge to healing. Yet, the path remained fraught with ethical dilemmas. How much influence should the implant have? Could patients truly consent to changes they might not fully understand? Maya wrestled with these questions daily, recognizing that science alone could not answer them. They required wisdom, empathy, and humility. As Neuralink's second wave of trials progressed, regulators and independent ethics boards worked closely with the team, setting new standards for transparency and accountability. The public, now more informed, participated in shaping the future, ensuring that the technology served the common good rather than corporate profit. Maya's own journey mirrored this transformation. From a driven scientist chasing technological marvels, she had evolved into a thoughtful leader, championing the inseparable bond between technology and humanity. She often thought back to the breaking point, the crisis that forced her to confront the implant's power not just over the brain but over the soul. That reckoning had birthed a new vision, one where love and sacrifice were as vital as circuits and code. On a crisp autumn morning, Maya stood on a stage before a packed auditorium, ready to share Neuralink's progress with the world. She spoke not of miraculous feats but of cautious hope, of lessons learned and paths yet to be forged. Her voice carried the weight of experience but also the lightness of someone who believed in the future, one built with care. "We're not here to control minds," she said. "We're here to understand them, to heal them, and to celebrate the beautiful complexity of what makes us human. This technology is a tool, not a master. And it's up to all of us to wield it wisely." The audience erupted in applause, a moment of collective hope after months of fear and uncertainty. As Maya stepped down, she caught sight of Sarah in the crowd, smiling, a living testament to the power of second chances. The journey of Neuralink was far from over, but a new chapter had begun, one marked by respect, responsibility, and a deeper understanding of the mind's infinite mysteries. Maya Bennett felt ready to walk that path, embracing the unknown with a heart both curious and cautious, a scientist and a woman forever changed by the trials that tested not just technology but the essence of being human. Just as Neuralink began to regain trust and momentum, subtle cracks appeared beneath the surface, shadows of doubt that threatened to unravel the fragile progress Maya and her team had fought so hard to achieve. It started with minor anomalies, irregular data spikes during sessions, unexplained glitches in the implant's adaptive software, and volunteers reporting strange sensations, fleeting moments of déjà vu, sudden emotional swings, or brief lapses in memory. Initially, these signs were dismissed as normal adjustments, the brain adapting to foreign technology. But as reports multiplied, Maya's unease deepened. She convened an emergency meeting with the core research team, including Lina Morales, the cognitive neuroscientist who had become her closest collaborator. Lina pointed out that while the new implant was designed to learn from neural patterns, it might also be vulnerable to unforeseen feedback loops. Situations where the implant signals could reinforce errant neural pathways, leading to erratic behavior or cognitive disturbances. The potential implications were alarming. Could the technology, meant to heal, inadvertently create new mental health risks? Maya insisted on a thorough investigation, suspending new trials until they understood the problem. Behind the scenes, she dug into the implant's software architecture, consulting with cybersecurity experts and neural engineers. They discovered a disturbing possibility: the adaptive algorithms, though sophisticated, lacked safeguards against unintended self-modification. In rare cases, the implant could learn harmful patterns from the brain's erratic signals, amplifying them in a feedback loop that distorted cognition. The team coined the phenomenon neurofeedback drift. Worse still, there were early signs that external electromagnetic interference, whether accidental or intentional, might exacerbate the drift. This raised fears about the implant's vulnerability to hacking or malicious manipulation, an ethical and security nightmare. Maya's heart sank as she envisioned scenarios where minds connected by Neuralink could be influenced or controlled from afar, turning the technology into a weapon instead of a healer. She fought to keep these concerns confidential, knowing the media and public would react with panic. But word leaked, sparking a wave of fear and skepticism that threatened to derail the renewed trials and undo months of careful progress. Meanwhile, within Neuralink's leadership, tensions flared. Carter, who had been sidelined after the previous crisis, resurfaced with a new argument: that such risks were inevitable in pioneering technology and should not halt advancement. "We can't let fear freeze us," he insisted in a heated board meeting. "Every breakthrough carries risk. We must push forward and solve problems as they arise." Maya countered that responsibility demanded caution and transparency, especially when human minds were at stake. The conflict split the company further, with factions forming around competing philosophies. In the midst of this turmoil, some volunteers in the suspended trials experienced worsening symptoms: confusion, anxiety, and in a few cases, brief psychotic episodes. Maya personally visited these individuals, sitting with them in sterile hospital rooms, witnessing firsthand the toll of neurofeedback drift. The emotional weight was crushing. She questioned whether the technology could ever be safe enough. Outside the lab, regulatory bodies intensified scrutiny, demanding comprehensive risk assessments and independent oversight. Legal challenges emerged from families of affected volunteers, and activist groups called for a complete ban on human neural implants. The world seemed poised on the edge of retreat. In this atmosphere of crisis, Maya found unexpected allies. A coalition of neuroscientists, ethicists, and mental health advocates rallied around her call for a moratorium until safety could be guaranteed. They proposed open-source protocols, collaborative research, and strict ethical standards to rebuild trust. Maya embraced this movement, believing that only through openness and shared responsibility could Neuralink's vision survive. Late one night, as she pored over data logs in her dimly lit office, Maya's implant triggered a sudden surge of neural activity, sharp flashes of memories and emotions that felt foreign yet intimately connected. She realized with a shock that the implant itself was struggling with neurofeedback drift, mirroring the instability it sometimes caused in others. This personal intrusion shook her to the core. The technology was no longer an external tool but a living presence within her mind, vulnerable and fallible. She wondered if her identity could withstand the strain. The experience renewed her determination to find solutions grounded in humility and respect for the mind's complexity. The team worked tirelessly to redesign the implant's algorithms, incorporating multi-layered safeguards, real-time monitoring, and fail-safes to detect and correct neurofeedback drift. They partnered with external researchers and cybersecurity experts, inviting rigorous peer review. Progress was slow but steady. As Neuralink navigated these treacherous waters, Maya also confronted her own vulnerabilities. The implant's presence continued to influence her moods and thoughts in subtle ways, forcing her to develop new coping strategies and seek support from trusted friends and therapists. She shared her struggles publicly, advocating for mental health awareness in the tech world. Her openness resonated, humanizing the technology and the people behind it. By the end of the year, Neuralink cautiously resumed limited trials with fully informed volunteers under strict supervision. Early results showed promise, improvements in mood regulation and cognitive function without severe side effects, but the shadows of doubt lingered. Maya understood that Neuralink's journey was a marathon, not a sprint. The technology's potential was vast, but so were its challenges. She often reflected on the fragile balance between hope and caution, innovation and ethics. The story of Neuralink was no longer just about machines or science, it was about the human spirit's resilience in facing the unknown. In quiet moments, Maya looked out over the city, the implant humming softly within her. She felt a mixture of awe and responsibility, knowing that every step forward must honor the delicate sanctity of the mind. The shadows of doubt were still there, but so was the light of possibility, a reminder that the future was a path to be walked with care, courage, and unwavering respect for what it truly meant to be human. In the midst of Neuralink's turmoil, when trust was fraying and the future seemed uncertain, Maya Bennett found an unexpected source of hope, allies she hadn't anticipated. It began with a quiet invitation from Dr. Marcus Lee, a renowned bioethicist and critic of neurotechnology, who reached out to her after reading her candid public statements about the risks and responsibilities of brain-computer interfaces. Marcus was known for his firm stance on protecting human autonomy and cautioning against the rush to integrate machines with minds. Yet his letter was not an attack but an offer to collaborate. Maya was wary but intrigued. They met in a small, nondescript cafe in Palo Alto, surrounded by the hum of conversation and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Marcus was thoughtful and articulate, expressing respect for Neuralink's achievements while emphasizing the importance of ethical guardrails. Technology like this doesn't just change brains, he said. It changes what it means to be human. We need to ensure that humanity is at the center of every decision. Their conversation stretched for hours, touching on philosophy, neuroscience, and the social implications of mind-machine integration. Maya found herself challenged and inspired by Marcus's perspectives, which complemented her scientific outlook with a deeper exploration of values and human dignity. This meeting sparked a partnership that would shape Neuralink's next phase. Together, they formed a coalition of scientists, ethicists, mental health professionals, legal experts, and community representatives, a diverse group committed to creating a comprehensive ethical framework for neural implants. The coalition's first initiative was to develop a set of guiding principles prioritizing informed consent, mental health safeguards, transparency, and equitable access. Maya and Marcus co-authored a manifesto titled Neurotechnology for Humanity, which quickly gained traction in academic circles and among policymakers. Their work emphasized that the future of brain-computer interfaces depended not only on technological breakthroughs but on building trust through respect and collaboration. The coalition hosted open forums and workshops, inviting voices from marginalized communities, patients, and advocates who had previously been excluded from the conversation. Maya witnessed firsthand how fears and hopes intersected, and how empathy could bridge divides between technologists and the public. In one particularly moving session, a group of veterans shared their struggles with PTSD and their cautious optimism about how neural implants might offer relief. Maya realized that healing was more than a scientific goal, it was a deeply human process requiring listening and partnership. Meanwhile, Neuralink's engineers and neuroscientists worked closely with the coalition to incorporate ethical feedback into device design and trial protocols. The implant software was refined to include features that allowed users greater control over data sharing and intervention limits, reinforcing autonomy and privacy. This collaborative approach transformed Neuralink's culture, fostering humility and openness. Internally, Maya's leadership style evolved. She encouraged dialogue, welcomed dissenting opinions, and prioritized the well-being of volunteers over rapid results. Her journey from driven scientist to empathetic advocate inspired her colleagues and helped heal some of the wounds left by earlier failures. Outside the lab, the coalition's influence extended to regulators and legislators who began drafting comprehensive neurotechnology policies. Maya testified before Congress, advocating for laws that balanced innovation with safeguards to protect human rights. She emphasized that brain implants touched the core of personhood and demanded unprecedented care. Public opinion, once skeptical and fearful, began to shift. Media coverage highlighted the coalition's work and featured stories of volunteers who found hope in the new, more cautious approach. Social media buzzed with discussions about the ethics of mind-machine interfaces, reflecting a growing public engagement. Despite these positive developments, challenges persisted. Some critics argued that the coalition's processes slowed progress and stifled innovation. Others worried about access disparities, fearing that such advanced technology would deepen social inequalities. Maya acknowledged these concerns and pushed for inclusive programs ensuring that neurotechnology's benefits reached diverse populations, not just the privileged few. On a personal level, the partnership with Marcus brought new depth to Maya's understanding of her work's impact. They often debated late into the night, blending science and philosophy in conversations that expanded her worldview. Marcus's presence grounded her, reminding her that the ethical stakes were as high as the technical ones. One day, Maya received a message from Sarah, the veteran whose PTSD had improved with the implant's help. Sarah expressed gratitude for the coalition's efforts and shared that she had become an advocate herself, speaking to other veterans about the importance of ethical neurotechnology. This moment affirmed for Maya that their work had meaning beyond the lab. It was about real people's lives and the promise of healing without sacrifice of identity. The coalition also sparked new research into how neural implants could support creativity, learning, and emotional resilience, areas often overlooked in early trials focused on control or symptom relief. Artists and educators joined the dialogue, exploring how technology might enhance rather than diminish human expression. Maya marveled at this unfolding tapestry of collaboration, seeing that the future was not a narrow path but a vast landscape shaped by many hands. As Neuralink's technology stabilized and improved, the company launched a pilot program offering implants to volunteers with chronic neurological conditions, including epilepsy and Parkinson's disease. These carefully monitored trials showed encouraging results, helping patients regain control over their symptoms and improve quality of life. Maya knew these successes were hard-won, born from the coalition's commitment to ethics and empathy. Yet she remained vigilant, aware that vigilance was the price of progress in such uncharted territory. One evening, reflecting on the journey from chaos to cautious hope, Maya realized that the greatest breakthroughs came not from machines alone but from the alliances forged between minds and hearts. The story of Neuralink was no longer just about technology's power but about humanity's capacity to learn, adapt, and grow through partnership. With allies by her side and a community engaged, Maya felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Hopeful that together, they could navigate the complexities of the mind and build a future where technology served not as a master, but as a compassionate companion on the journey of life. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? After months of painstaking research, rigorous testing, and ethical consultations, Neuralink announced a major breakthrough, the development of a next-generation neural implant capable of not only reading brain signals with unprecedented precision but also modulating neural activity to alleviate symptoms of debilitating neurological disorders. Maya Bennett stood before the press at a sleek San Francisco conference center, nerves and pride swirling in equal measure. The room buzzed with anticipation. Reporters, scientists, investors, and advocates filled the seats. Cameras flashed as Maya introduced the new technology, a device smaller and safer than before, equipped with adaptive algorithms designed to avoid the dreaded neurofeedback drift. Today marks a new chapter in our journey, Maya declared. We're moving beyond healing to enhancing lives with dignity, transparency, and responsibility. The announcement sparked a wave of excitement worldwide. Patients suffering from epilepsy, Parkinson's disease, and treatment-resistant depression saw new hope. Medical centers clamored to join Neuralink's expanded clinical trials. Investors poured resources into the company, eager to back what many hailed as a revolution in medicine and human potential. But with the spotlight came scrutiny. Advocacy groups warned that the technology's promises came with dangers, including privacy invasion, data misuse, and social inequality. Media outlets published editorials debating the ethics of mind modification. Social media erupted with passionate arguments, reflecting a society grappling with the profound implications of melding minds and machines. Maya knew this public reckoning was inevitable. Neuralink's transparency meant that every flaw and controversy would be amplified. Yet, she welcomed the debate. It was a sign that society was engaging with the issues, not turning a blind eye. The company implemented new policies to safeguard patient data, including blockchain-based encryption and user-controlled consent for data sharing. Volunteers were given full access to their neural data and the ability to pause or modify implant functions. Educational campaigns aimed to demystify the technology and address fears. Despite these efforts, challenges mounted. A leaked internal report revealed that a small percentage of trial participants experienced cognitive fatigue and emotional blunting, side effects that raised questions about the implant's long-term effects on personality and creativity. Critics seized on this, accusing Neuralink of downplaying risks to advance corporate interests. Maya responded with honesty and openness, organizing town halls and expert panels to discuss findings and safety measures. She emphasized that science was iterative, and ongoing vigilance was necessary to balance benefit and risk. Meanwhile, a powerful lobbying group formed to push for strict government regulations on neural implants, arguing that current oversight was insufficient. Some lawmakers called for moratoriums until comprehensive studies could guarantee safety. The debate spilled into the cultural realm, inspiring artists, writers, and filmmakers to explore the promises and perils of mind-machine interfaces. Neuralink found itself at the heart of a cultural conversation about identity, autonomy, and the future of humanity. Amid this turmoil, Maya drew strength from the coalition of allies she had helped build. Together, they published a comprehensive white paper addressing ethical concerns and proposing a global framework for neural technology governance. This included recommendations for informed consent protocols, mental health support, equitable access initiatives, and ongoing public engagement. The document gained endorsement from leading scientific organizations and human rights groups, marking a milestone in the field. On a personal level, Maya struggled with the immense pressure. The implant within her mind was a constant companion, sometimes a source of clarity, sometimes a source of fatigue. She leaned on therapy and meditation, recognizing that her own well-being was essential to leading Neuralink responsibly. One particularly difficult moment came when a close friend and early volunteer, Emily, reported experiencing mood swings and a sense of detachment since receiving an upgraded implant. Maya visited Emily frequently, working with clinicians to adjust implant settings and provide psychological support. Emily's experience was a sobering reminder of the technology's complexity and the need for individualized care. In response, Neuralink expanded its support services, creating multidisciplinary teams including neurologists, psychologists, and social workers to assist volunteers throughout their journey. The company also launched a patient advocacy program, giving volunteers a platform to share their stories and influence development priorities. This human-centered approach fostered empathy and trust, vital ingredients for progress. As the technology matured, Neuralink explored applications beyond therapy, including education, communication for people with disabilities, and even creative expression. Collaborations with artists and musicians led to experimental projects where neural signals were translated into visual art and music, revealing new dimensions of human experience. Maya marveled at these possibilities, yet remained mindful of the ethical boundaries they had to respect. The public reckoning continued to unfold in unpredictable ways. In one high-profile incident, a hacker group claimed to have penetrated a Neuralink device during a controlled trial, demonstrating vulnerabilities in implant security. Although no harm occurred, the event sparked widespread concern and renewed calls for stronger protections. Neuralink responded swiftly, collaborating with cybersecurity experts to fortify defenses and launching transparent investigations. The incident underscored the urgent need for vigilance in safeguarding the most intimate interface between humans and technology, the brain. By the end of the year, Neuralink stood at a crossroads. The breakthroughs offered unprecedented hope, but the backlash revealed the profound responsibility that came with wielding such power. Maya reflected on the journey, from the early trials marred by hubris and oversight, through crisis and ethical reckoning, to cautious optimism grounded in collaboration and care. She recognized that Neuralink's story was part of a larger human story, the quest to transcend limitations while honoring what makes us fundamentally human. The future remained uncertain, but Maya's conviction was clear. Innovation must be guided not only by what technology can do but by what it should do. The public reckoning was not a barrier but a necessary crucible forging a more thoughtful, inclusive, and humane path forward. Standing on the stage after the conference, Maya looked into the faces of a world both hopeful and wary. She saw in them the challenge and the promise of the age, an era where minds and machines would dance together, shaping new realities with every thought and choice. And she knew that the journey had only just begun. As Neuralink's technology matured and the public reckoning gradually settled into a cautious acceptance, the focus shifted from healing deficits to exploring the vast, uncharted frontiers of the human mind. Maya Bennett and her team found themselves standing at the threshold of possibilities that seemed to blur the line between science fiction and reality. The question was no longer simply how to restore lost function or alleviate suffering but how to expand the very horizons of human experience and cognition. The mind's frontier became a rallying vision, a future where neural implants could enhance memory, accelerate learning, unlock creativity, and even facilitate direct mental communication. Neuralink's latest prototype incorporated multimodal sensors capable of reading and stimulating complex neural circuits with unprecedented resolution. This advancement opened doors to experiments that transcended traditional medicine and ventured into the realm of cognitive augmentation. Volunteers were now not only patients but curious pioneers willing to explore what it meant to enhance their own brains. Maya herself volunteered to be among the first users of these new capabilities. The implant in her own brain now featured layers of software designed to assist with focus, emotional regulation, and rapid data processing. She described the experience as, like upgrading the operating system of the mind, a sensation of clarity and fluidity that coexisted with the ever-present hum of the implant's subtle influence. The promise of cognitive enhancement ignited intense excitement but also renewed ethical debates. Critics warned of the dangers of creating a neuro-elite, individuals with enhanced mental capacities who might deepen social inequalities. Others worried about consent, privacy, and the psychological impact of altering cognition beyond natural limits. Maya recognized these concerns and continued to advocate for frameworks ensuring equitable access and ongoing ethical oversight. One of the most groundbreaking developments was the introduction of neural language experiments. Neuralink researchers worked with linguists and cognitive scientists to develop protocols enabling direct brain-to-brain communication. Early trials involved volunteers attempting to share simple thoughts, emotions, or sensory experiences without speaking or typing, an intimate form of connection that promised to transform human interaction. These sessions were often emotional, revealing the raw power of mind-to-mind exchange. Volunteers reported feelings of deep empathy and understanding, as if barriers of language and culture dissolved. Maya reflected on how this technology could heal divisions and foster unity, yet also understood the profound privacy concerns. To safeguard autonomy, Neuralink implemented strict controls allowing users to accept or reject transmissions and maintain boundaries between private and shared thoughts. The company also partnered with philosophers and psychologists to study the impact of neural communication on identity and social dynamics. One striking discovery was how such intimate connection could challenge traditional notions of selfhood, forcing a reconsideration of individuality in a networked mindscape. Neuralink's collaboration with artists, musicians, and educators flourished in this era of cognitive expansion. Workshops and residencies invited creators to experiment with neural data as raw material for novel art forms, visualizations of emotion, music generated by thought patterns, immersive experiences crafted through shared neural states. The boundaries between creator and audience blurred, fostering new ways of expressing and perceiving human experience. Maya saw in these projects a beautiful synergy of technology and humanity, a testament to the mind's boundless creativity. At the same time, clinical applications continued to advance. Volunteers with degenerative diseases benefited from improved symptom management, and individuals with paralysis regained finer control over prosthetic limbs connected directly to their neural signals. Neuralink's interface technology became a platform not just for enhancement but for restoring agency and dignity to those whose bodies or minds had been limited. The global scientific community took notice. Conferences convened multidisciplinary experts exploring the implications of neural augmentation, from ethics to economics, psychology to law. Maya was frequently invited to speak, sharing Neuralink's evolving philosophy of responsible innovation grounded in collaboration and care. Yet, despite these advancements, challenges persisted. Some volunteers reported feelings of disorientation or alienation as their cognitive processes shifted. Maya and her team worked closely with mental health professionals to understand and mitigate these effects, emphasizing personalized care and support. A growing awareness emerged that expanding the mind's frontier was not simply a technical feat but a profoundly human journey requiring patience, empathy, and humility. In a particularly poignant moment, Maya visited a volunteer named David, a poet who described how the implant's enhancement altered his creative process. While it accelerated his ideas and expanded his vocabulary, David confessed to a sense of loss. His poetry sometimes felt less spontaneous, less deeply personal. This conversation highlighted for Maya the delicate balance between augmentation and authenticity. The technology must serve, not supplant, the human spirit. These experiences reinforced Neuralink's commitment to involving volunteers as partners in shaping the technology's evolution. Feedback loops between users and developers became integral, ensuring that enhancements aligned with human values and well-being. Maya often said, "The future of cognition is co-created by minds connected not just by wires but by trust and respect." As the year drew to a close, Neuralink launched a pilot program in education, partnering with schools to explore how neural augmentation could support learning in students with diverse needs. Early results showed promise, improved focus, reduced anxiety, and enhanced retention, but also revealed the necessity of careful oversight to avoid undue pressure or inequality. Maya saw this as a microcosm of the broader societal challenge, integrating powerful technology without sacrificing fairness and humanity. Public engagement remained a cornerstone of Neuralink's approach. The company hosted community forums, online dialogues, and interactive exhibitions inviting people from all walks of life to learn, ask questions, and voice concerns. Maya believed that democratizing knowledge was essential to building a future where neural technology enriched all rather than divided many. Reflecting on Neuralink's journey to the mind's frontier, Maya felt a deep sense of gratitude and awe. From early struggles marked by uncertainty and fear, they had arrived at a place where human potential and technology intertwined in new and wondrous ways. Yet she knew this was only the beginning. The mind's frontier stretched endlessly ahead, full of mystery and promise, inviting explorers willing to navigate its depths with courage and compassion. The story of Neuralink was no longer just a tale of invention, it was a story of transformation, connection, and hope. And Maya Bennett, with the hum of the implant softly echoing in her thoughts, was ready to lead the way. As Neuralink's advances pushed deeper into the mind's frontier, the shadows of doubt grew longer and darker, casting an ethical storm that threatened to upend the fragile progress. What began as cautious public debate had evolved into fierce controversy, with moral philosophers, religious leaders, privacy advocates, and even some early Neuralink volunteers voicing profound concerns. Maya Bennett found herself at the eye of a gathering tempest, where every decision could tip the balance between hope and harm, trust and fear. The catalyst came unexpectedly. A whistleblower, a former Neuralink software engineer named Jason, leaked internal documents revealing that some implant algorithms were designed not only to assist users but to subtly influence emotional states and decision-making patterns without explicit consent. Though the technology was still in testing and controlled environments, the revelation ignited a firestorm of accusations. Manipulation, loss of free will, and the commodification of human consciousness. Neuralink's leadership scrambled to respond. Maya appeared in televised interviews and public forums, acknowledging the issues and promising immediate transparency, independent audits, and full cooperation with regulatory agencies. She emphasized that any influence algorithms were intended solely for therapeutic purposes, such as alleviating depression or anxiety, and that rigorous consent protocols were in place. Yet, the damage to public trust was severe. Advocacy groups amplified fears, warning that such technology could become a tool for coercion, propaganda, or even mind control on a societal scale. The concept of neurosurveillance took hold, evoking dystopian images of governments or corporations accessing and manipulating thoughts. Religious institutions weighed in, some condemning the implants as unnatural violations of the soul, while others urged reflection on the essence of free will and divine creation. Maya attended meetings with faith leaders, scientists, and ethicists, seeking common ground. These dialogues were tense but necessary, revealing the deep cultural and philosophical dimensions of neural technology's impact. Meanwhile, within Neuralink's volunteer community, unease grew. Some participants reported feeling disoriented or pressured by implant functions they did not fully understand. Support groups formed online, sharing stories of side effects and emotional distress. Maya personally reached out to several volunteers, listening and committing to improve communication and control features. She recognized that informed consent was not a one-time event but an ongoing process requiring clarity, empathy, and empowerment. The company accelerated efforts to make implant controls more intuitive and transparent, introducing user interfaces that allowed individuals to see, modify, or disable any emotional modulation features. Independent ethics boards were expanded and given greater authority to review all neural software updates before deployment. Despite these measures, legal challenges loomed. Lawsuits filed by volunteers claiming psychological harm and breaches of consent added pressure. Governments worldwide debated new legislation to regulate neural implants, some proposing outright bans until safety and ethical standards were proven. The media frenzy intensified, often focusing on worst-case scenarios and sensationalizing risks. Maya found herself defending Neuralink not only in courtrooms and congressional hearings but in the court of public opinion, where fear often drowned out nuance. To address the crisis, Neuralink launched a global campaign of transparency and dialogue, inviting critics to participate in shaping the future of neurotechnology. Town halls, expert panels, and public workshops became routine. Maya encouraged open critique, believing that only through honesty and collaboration could trust be rebuilt. The campaign included educational efforts aimed at demystifying neural implants and explaining the safeguards in place. Maya also spearheaded research into the psychological effects of implants, partnering with universities to conduct independent studies. Findings were mixed but generally supportive of the technology's potential when used responsibly. However, the research highlighted the complexity of brain modulation and the need for personalized approaches. In one poignant moment, Maya met with a volunteer named Anna, who shared her experience of emotional shifts caused by implant settings she did not fully understand or consent to. Anna's story was both heartbreaking and galvanizing. It reminded Maya that behind every data point were human lives, vulnerable and deserving of respect. This encounter deepened Maya's resolve to prioritize patient autonomy above all. The ethical storm also prompted Neuralink to reconsider its corporate structure and leadership. An independent ethics council was established with veto power over certain decisions. Maya welcomed this change, seeing it as a vital step toward accountability and shared governance. She publicly committed to a philosophy of humility and service, framing Neuralink as a steward rather than a master of neural technology. Internally, the company culture shifted. Teams were encouraged to voice concerns and challenge assumptions. Psychological support services for staff were expanded, recognizing that working on such high-stakes technology exacted an emotional toll. Maya herself sought counseling and mentorship to navigate the immense pressures. As the storm raged, Neuralink's technology continued to improve. Security measures were enhanced to protect implants from hacking or unauthorized access. Data privacy protocols were tightened. User interfaces became more user-friendly, empowering volunteers to control their experience. These advancements slowly began to restore confidence among some segments of the public and scientific community. Yet the broader societal debate remained unresolved. Questions about identity, autonomy, privacy, and power persisted. What did it mean to alter one's mind with technology? Who should control such technology, and who bore responsibility for its consequences? Maya engaged with these questions in essays, interviews, and conferences, advocating for an ongoing, inclusive dialogue that balanced innovation with caution. She emphasized that neural technology was not inherently good or evil, it was a reflection of human intentions and values. The chapter of doubt was painful but necessary, a crucible forcing Neuralink and society to confront uncomfortable truths and establish stronger foundations. Maya believed that emerging from the storm required courage, empathy, and collective wisdom. One evening, as she sat in her quiet San Francisco apartment, Maya reflected on the journey. The neural implant in her brain pulsed softly, a constant reminder of the technology's power and responsibility. She understood that the ethical storm was far from over, but she felt ready to face whatever came next. For her, Neuralink was not just a company or a technology, it was a mission to expand human potential while honoring the dignity and complexity of the mind. The shadows of doubt, she knew, could also be a source of illumination, guiding the path toward a future where neural interfaces were tools of healing, connection, and freedom, not chains of control. In the wake of the ethical storm, Neuralink found itself at a pivotal crossroads, a moment demanding both redemption and resolve. The once bright beacon of cutting-edge innovation had been dimmed by doubt, criticism, and public skepticism. Yet, amid the turbulence, Maya Bennett and her team recognized that this was not an end but a beginning, a chance to rebuild trust, refine their vision, and reaffirm their commitment to humanity's shared future. The first step was radical transparency. Neuralink unveiled comprehensive reports detailing every aspect of their technology, how implants operated, what data was collected, and crucially, how user consent was obtained and respected. These reports included independent audit findings and acknowledged past shortcomings with candid honesty. For Maya, vulnerability was a strength. She held live-streamed Q&A sessions where volunteers, scientists, ethicists, and curious members of the public could directly ask questions. These forums often stretched for hours, sometimes devolving into heated debates, but they were essential to breaking down walls of mistrust. At one such session, a volunteer named Carla shared her journey with Neuralink. From initial excitement to struggles with side effects and finally, empowerment after collaborative adjustments to her implant settings. Her story resonated widely, illustrating the human face behind the technology. This emphasis on partnership transformed the volunteer community into advocates and advisors. Neuralink formalized this relationship by creating a user council composed of diverse volunteers who influenced product development and ethical guidelines. Their input shaped software updates, consent procedures, and mental health support initiatives. This co-creation model became a hallmark of Neuralink's renewed approach, signaling a shift from top-down innovation to shared stewardship. Alongside transparency, Neuralink invested heavily in education. The company partnered with universities, high schools, and community organizations to demystify neural technology and foster informed dialogue. Workshops, interactive exhibits, and online courses explored not only the science but also the ethical, psychological, and cultural dimensions of brain-computer interfaces. Maya often spoke at these events, emphasizing that technology was a tool that must serve human values and that everyone deserved a voice in shaping its future. One particularly impactful initiative was the Neuralink Fellowship for Neuroethics, which funded interdisciplinary research exploring the intersection of technology, mind, and society. This program attracted philosophers, sociologists, artists, and neuroscientists, enriching the conversation and guiding responsible innovation. Neuralink also expanded mental health resources for volunteers, recognizing that the journey with neural implants was deeply personal and sometimes challenging. Psychologists, counselors, and peer support networks were integrated into the care model, ensuring that participants had holistic support. Maya knew that healing the mind required more than hardware, it demanded compassion and understanding. On the technological front, Neuralink refined its implants with user control as a central feature. New interfaces empowered volunteers to customize their experiences, adjust or disable enhancement modes, and monitor neural data transparently. Security measures became state-of-the-art, with multi-layered encryption and fail-safes preventing unauthorized access. These innovations reassured users and regulators alike, restoring confidence in the platform. Maya's leadership was tested in a high-profile congressional hearing where lawmakers grilled Neuralink executives on privacy, safety, and ethical governance. Maya spoke with clarity and humility, acknowledging past mistakes and outlining concrete reforms. Her testimony emphasized Neuralink's commitment to co-creation, transparency, and respect for individual autonomy. The hearing ended with bipartisan support for a regulatory framework that balanced innovation with safeguards, a landmark victory signaling a new chapter for the industry. Beyond the corporate and legal realms, Neuralink's renewed vision inspired a cultural renaissance. Collaborations with artists and educators flourished, exploring neural technology's potential to deepen empathy, creativity, and connection. Maya championed projects that used neural data to create immersive art, accessible education tools, and platforms amplifying marginalized voices. She saw these endeavors as proof that technology could uplift the human spirit rather than diminish it. Yet, Maya remained grounded in the lessons of the past. She encouraged her team to approach every innovation with ethical rigor and humility, embracing uncertainty as a space for learning and growth. She reminded them that neural technology was not a magic bullet but a profound responsibility. In moments of quiet reflection, Maya revisited the early days when Neuralink's promise was untested and the future unknown. The path had been arduous, marked by triumphs and setbacks, hope and fear. But through it all, the core mission endured, to expand human potential while honoring the dignity of the individual mind. As Neuralink prepared to launch its next phase, wider clinical trials and global outreach, Maya felt a deep sense of resolve. The company was no longer just a pioneer in neural implants, it was a model for how technology could evolve with society, ethics, and humanity intertwined. Standing before her team at a company retreat, Maya shared her vision: "We are not just building devices, we are building trust, understanding, and a future where minds connect with empathy and respect. Together, we can shape a world where technology serves us all, not just a few." The room filled with quiet determination, a shared commitment to continue the journey with courage and care. In this moment of redemption and resolve, Neuralink emerged not as a flawless innovator but as a conscientious steward of the mind's frontier. And Maya Bennett, with her implant softly humming as a symbol of both challenge and possibility, was ready to lead this evolving story into the future. With trust cautiously restored and Neuralink's vision sharpened by ethical reflection, the company entered a new era defined by breakthroughs and boundaries. The landscape of neural technology was rapidly evolving, and Maya Bennett stood at the helm, guiding the company through uncharted territory where scientific ambition met profound human questions. The latest generation of Neuralink implants introduced remarkable capabilities, seamless integration with external devices, enhanced sensory inputs, and unprecedented neural resolution. Volunteers could now control robotic limbs with near-natural precision, experience augmented reality overlays directly in their perception, and even receive real-time translation of foreign languages as neural impulses. These developments sparked excitement but also tested the limits of what was safe, ethical, and humanly meaningful. Neuralink's research teams collaborated with leading neuroscientists, engineers, and psychologists to push the boundaries while grounding innovations in rigorous science and compassionate care. Maya emphasized that every breakthrough required thorough testing and thoughtful consideration of potential consequences. One of the most transformative projects was the expansion of neural sensory augmentation. Neuralink developed interfaces that allowed users to see infrared light or hear ultrasonic frequencies, senses previously inaccessible to humans. Early volunteers reported sensations unlike anything they had experienced, vivid, sometimes overwhelming, yet profoundly enriching. Maya watched as users navigated their worlds with newfound awareness, unlocking layers of reality hidden from ordinary perception. However, these enhancements also raised difficult questions. How would expanded sensory input affect cognition, emotional balance, or social interaction. Could such augmentations create new forms of alienation or sensory overload? Neuralink approached these questions with humility, designing adjustable settings and personalized support to help users adapt and integrate their enhanced perceptions. The company also explored neural interface applications in education and creativity. Trials with students showed promising improvements in focus, memory retention, and language acquisition. Artists collaborated with engineers to create immersive neural art experiences where brainwaves shaped colors, sounds, and virtual environments in real time. These experiments revealed the mind's extraordinary plasticity and the potential for technology to amplify human expression. Yet, as Neuralink's scope broadened, regulatory and societal boundaries became more complex. Governments around the world introduced diverse policies, reflecting varying cultural values and concerns. In some countries, neural augmentation was embraced as a pathway to enhanced productivity and innovation. In others, it faced strict limitations or outright bans due to fears of inequality and misuse. Neuralink navigated this patchwork with diplomacy and adaptability, respecting local laws and engaging with policymakers to promote ethical standards. Maya frequently traveled internationally, participating in forums and building coalitions aimed at harmonizing regulations and fostering global dialogue. In parallel, the company faced intense scrutiny from civil rights groups wary of surveillance, data exploitation, and potential coercion. Maya understood these fears were rooted in historical injustices and power imbalances. She committed Neuralink to transparency, data privacy, and empowering users with control over their neural data. Robust encryption, decentralized storage, and user-controlled permissions became foundational design principles. The company's open-source initiatives invited external audits and community involvement, further reinforcing trust. Neuralink also prioritized mental health as a central focus, expanding research on the psychological impacts of neural augmentation. Studies revealed that while many users experienced increased well-being and cognitive enhancement, some faced identity disturbances, emotional fluctuations, or social isolation. Maya championed integrated care models combining technology with counseling, peer support, and adaptive training. She emphasized that neural technology must enhance not only cognition but also emotional resilience and social connection. Amid these challenges, Neuralink's culture evolved. Interdisciplinary teams worked closely to address ethical dilemmas, human factors, and long-term impacts. Decision-making became more collaborative, involving ethicists, psychologists, volunteers, and external advisors. Maya fostered an environment where questioning assumptions and embracing uncertainty were strengths, not weaknesses. One memorable breakthrough came during a clinical trial involving patients with locked-in syndrome, a condition where individuals are conscious but unable to move or communicate. Using Neuralink implants, researchers enabled participants to express thoughts and emotions directly through neural signals decoded into speech and text. The emotional impact was profound, for patients, families, and the team alike. Maya visited one participant, James, who tearfully spoke to his wife for the first time in years. This moment embodied the essence of Neuralink's mission. Technology restoring dignity, connection, and hope. At the same time, the expanding capabilities required new ethical frameworks. The potential for mind hacking or unwanted influence demanded constant vigilance. Neuralink established rapid response teams to monitor and mitigate security threats, working with cybersecurity experts and law enforcement. The company also developed protocols to ensure user autonomy remained paramount, with emergency override features and transparent user controls. Maya's personal journey paralleled Neuralink's growth. She continued to rely on her own implant, exploring its limits and nuances. The hum of the device became a familiar companion, a reminder of the fusion between human and machine. Maya wrote extensively about her experiences, sharing reflections on identity, vulnerability, and the evolving meaning of consciousness in a technologically augmented age. These writings sparked public conversations and inspired a new generation of thinkers. Yet, despite progress, Maya never lost sight of the cautionary lessons from Neuralink's earlier trials. Breakthroughs were exhilarating but required humility and responsibility. She reminded her team, innovation without conscience is a path to peril. We must balance our dreams with the realities of the human mind. As the year ended, Neuralink prepared to announce a landmark partnership with a global educational consortium to pilot neural augmentation in classrooms across diverse cultural contexts. The initiative aimed to explore not only cognitive enhancement but also how neural interfaces could foster empathy, cross-cultural understanding, and collaborative learning. Maya envisioned a future where neural technology helped build bridges between minds and cultures rather than barriers. Standing on the cusp of this new frontier, Neuralink embodied both the promise and the challenge of mind technology. Breakthroughs expanded what was possible, boundaries reminded what was necessary. For Maya and her team, the journey was far from over. It was a continual navigation between innovation and ethics, power and humility, possibility and responsibility. In this delicate balance lay the future of human cognition, an evolving story of exploration, connection, and profound transformation. The promise of Neuralink's breakthroughs hung in the air like electricity, vibrant yet charged with unseen risks. Despite the company's best efforts to navigate ethical boundaries and build trust, a crisis was looming, one that would test the very core of Neuralink's mission and the fragile relationship between technology and humanity. It began subtly. A small group of volunteers reported unusual neural feedback, brief, involuntary memory flashes and altered emotional states that they could neither predict nor control. Initially dismissed as isolated anomalies or placebo effects, the reports multiplied. The Neuralink monitoring team grew alarmed as symptoms intensified. Volunteers experienced disorientation, fragmented memories, and in some cases, deep anxiety or depressive episodes. Maya Bennett convened an emergency task force to investigate. The data suggested that an unintended feedback loop had emerged within the implant's algorithms, subtly affecting neural networks involved in memory and emotion. Though designed for therapeutic modulation, the software had interacted with individual brain wiring in unpredictable ways. The realization sent shockwaves through Neuralink. Here was a stark reminder that the brain's complexity far exceeded their current understanding, and that even well-intentioned interventions could have profound unintended consequences. Maya felt the weight of responsibility pressing down. Public scrutiny intensified as news of the incidents leaked. Media outlets framed it as Neuralink's mind control mishap, fueling sensational fears and casting doubt on the company's competence and ethics. Advocates called for immediate suspension of all trials, while regulators demanded thorough investigations. Volunteers' families expressed alarm, some threatening lawsuits. In the midst of this maelstrom, Maya addressed the public with raw honesty. She acknowledged the issues, apologized, and pledged full transparency and swift action to protect participants. The message was clear: Neuralink would not prioritize progress over safety. Internally, the crisis sparked soul-searching. Teams combed through code, neural data, and volunteer interviews, seeking to understand how the feedback loop had emerged and how to prevent future harm. Psychological counselors provided urgent support to affected volunteers, helping them navigate fear and confusion. The experience galvanized a cultural shift within Neuralink, a renewed commitment to cautious humility and human-centered design. Yet, the crisis was more than a technical failure, it was a collision of technology and humanity's deepest vulnerabilities. The brain was not just a machine but a living tapestry of memories, emotions, identity, and will. When that tapestry was disturbed, the consequences rippled beyond neurons into the fabric of self and relationships. Maya met privately with some volunteers deeply affected by the malfunction. One woman, Lila, tearfully described how memories of her late mother had surfaced unbidden and fragmented, causing emotional turmoil she struggled to explain or control. Another volunteer, Marcus, spoke of sudden waves of anxiety and disconnection from loved ones. These stories underscored the profound ethical dimensions at stake. Neuralink expanded its ethical oversight, involving external neuroethicists, patient advocates, and mental health experts in developing new protocols. The company implemented a mandatory neural reset feature, allowing users to safely revert implant settings and neural states to baseline. Consent processes were enhanced to include clearer explanations of risks and ongoing monitoring. The crisis also catalyzed broader societal conversations about the limits of neural technology. Public forums, academic conferences, and policy debates grappled with fundamental questions: how much risk is acceptable when intervening in the mind? Who decides what counts as harm or enhancement? How can autonomy be preserved when technology interfaces so intimately with identity? Maya became a vocal participant in these dialogues, advocating for a cautious, inclusive approach that recognized the mind's sacredness and complexity. She argued that neural interfaces must never become tools of control or coercion but rather instruments of healing and empowerment. Despite the challenges, the crisis ultimately strengthened Neuralink's resolve and culture. The company emerged with clearer priorities: safety first, transparency always, and partnership with users and society essential. Maya led by example, fostering a climate where admitting mistakes was seen as a path to growth rather than failure. Neuralink's volunteer community rallied, many expressing continued faith in the mission but demanding active roles in shaping the technology's future. The crisis also spurred innovation in neural safety technologies. Researchers developed advanced neural signal monitoring systems capable of detecting early signs of adverse effects and automatically adjusting implant functions. These smart safeguards incorporated machine learning and real-time feedback to personalize safety measures dynamically. At the policy level, the crisis prompted governments worldwide to tighten regulations, creating comprehensive frameworks for neural implant testing, approval, and monitoring. International coalitions formed to share data, best practices, and ethical guidelines, reflecting a global recognition of neural technology's profound impact. Throughout this turbulent period, Maya wrestled with her own doubts and fears. She questioned how far humanity should push the boundaries of mind-machine fusion and what it meant for identity and freedom. Yet she found strength in the stories of volunteers whose lives had been transformed positively, in the dedication of her team, and in the emerging community committed to responsible innovation. One evening, after a long day of crisis management, Maya sat quietly with her own Neuralink implant active. She reflected on the paradox of neural technology, the incredible power to heal and enhance, alongside the deep fragility of the mind's intricate balance. She understood that the journey was not about conquering the brain but listening to it with humility and care. The crisis had brought Neuralink to a crucible moment, testing not just technology but values, relationships, and vision. Maya believed that from this collision, a new path could emerge, one that honored human complexity and embraced the profound responsibility of shaping minds with respect and empathy. Neuralink's story was no longer just about innovation, it was about what it meant to be human in an age of mind-machine convergence. After the storm of the crisis passed, Neuralink entered a delicate phase of rebuilding, not just the technology but the fragile bridges of trust, accountability, and hope that had been shaken. Maya Bennett recognized that true recovery required more than technical fixes, it demanded an honest reckoning with mistakes, open dialogue with stakeholders, and a renewed commitment to ethical stewardship. The first priority was healing. Neuralink launched an extensive outreach program focused on supporting volunteers affected by the neural feedback incidents. Personalized care plans were developed, combining neurological treatment, psychotherapy, and peer support groups. Maya personally reached out to those volunteers, listening to their stories, acknowledging their pain, and assuring them that their well-being was paramount. This hands-on approach helped humanize the crisis response, demonstrating that Neuralink valued people over progress. Transparency remained central. Neuralink published comprehensive, detailed reports on the root causes of the malfunction, the corrective steps taken, and ongoing safety improvements. The company invited independent auditors and ethicists to review these findings and publicly shared their feedback. This openness contrasted sharply with the secrecy that had fueled earlier mistrust and helped reframe Neuralink's image as a responsible and accountable innovator. Public forums and town halls became regular features, where Maya and her leadership team engaged candidly with users, families, scientists, regulators, and critics. These conversations were sometimes uncomfortable but necessary, fostering a sense of shared ownership over the technology's future. Volunteers became co-creators and advisors, shaping updates, safety protocols, and consent processes. Neuralink's user council gained formal authority, reflecting a new partnership model grounded in respect and mutual accountability. Accountability extended beyond Neuralink's walls. Maya worked with policymakers to help craft robust regulatory frameworks ensuring that neural technologies worldwide adhere to strict safety, privacy, and ethical standards. She advocated for laws that protected users' rights to autonomy, data ownership, and informed consent. These policies balanced innovation with protections, acknowledging neural technology's unique risks and potential. Internally, Neuralink's culture transformed. Maya fostered a climate where whistleblowers and critics were heard, mistakes were seen as opportunities for learning, and ethical reflection was embedded into every stage of development. Cross-disciplinary ethics committees were established, integrating neuroscientists, engineers, ethicists, mental health professionals, and volunteers. This approach ensured that innovations were evaluated not just for technical feasibility but for human impact. Neuralink also enhanced training programs for employees, emphasizing empathy, cultural sensitivity, and the social implications of neural technology. This new culture promoted humility and responsibility, empowering the team to navigate the complex moral terrain ahead. Technological innovation continued, but with safety and humanity as guiding principles. Neuralink's engineers redesigned implant algorithms with fail-safes that monitored neural activity continuously, detecting and neutralizing irregular feedback patterns before they could affect users. User interfaces were redesigned for intuitive control and clear communication about risks and settings. Personalized neural profiles allowed adjustments tailored to each individual's unique brain patterns and emotional needs. These advances rekindled enthusiasm among volunteers and scientists alike, as they balanced progress with caution. On the community front, Neuralink expanded mental health support services, recognizing that navigating life with neural implants was an ongoing psychological journey. Peer-led support groups flourished, providing spaces where volunteers could share experiences, challenges, and triumphs. Maya often joined these sessions, reinforcing the message that no one was alone in this transformative but sometimes difficult process. Education initiatives grew deeper and more inclusive. Neuralink partnered with diverse schools, community centers, and advocacy groups to demystify neural technology and engage broader audiences in discussions about ethics, equity, and future possibilities. These efforts helped shift public perception from fear and skepticism toward informed curiosity and collective responsibility. A pivotal moment came when Neuralink hosted its first global Neural Ethics Summit, convening scientists, ethicists, policymakers, volunteers, and activists from around the world. The summit produced groundbreaking frameworks for ethical neural technology development, emphasizing justice, inclusivity, and human dignity. Maya's keynote speech underscored the summit's spirit: our technology is only as meaningful as the values we embed in it. Healing and accountability are the foundations on which we build a future where minds connect not to control, but to care. The summit also catalyzed international cooperation, with countries agreeing to share data on safety, privacy protections, and best practices. This global alliance aimed to prevent fragmented regulation and ensure equitable access to neural technologies, addressing fears that these innovations would exacerbate social divides. For Maya, this period of rebuilding was deeply personal. She reflected on the fragile intersection of ambition and humility that defined Neuralink's journey. The crisis had been a painful but necessary catalyst for growth, technological, cultural, and ethical. She knew the path ahead would continue to challenge assumptions and require vigilance. Yet, she felt hopeful, bolstered by a community united around shared values and vision. In a private journal entry, Maya wrote, "True innovation is not just about pushing boundaries, but about understanding the hearts and minds of those we serve." Healing begins with accountability, and accountability opens the door to trust and transformation. As Neuralink prepared to launch its next phase, focused on therapeutic applications for neurological disorders, the company stood on firmer ground. Volunteers who had weathered the crisis joined the new trials with cautious optimism, their experiences shaping protocols and support systems. Neuralink's story was no longer solely about technology, it was about human resilience, responsibility, and the power of partnership. In the quiet moments before a major trial kickoff, Maya stood overlooking the Neuralink campus. The hum of the research labs felt different now, less like a race to the future, more like a measured, mindful exploration of what it means to connect minds with care. Neuralink had been tested in the crucible of crisis and emerged transformed, ready to navigate the evolving frontier where technology and humanity meet. The dawn of Neuralink's renewed mission came quietly but with profound impact. After months of rebuilding trust, refining technology, and centering the human experience, the company launched its most ambitious therapeutic trial yet, targeting neurological disorders that had long resisted effective treatment. Maya Bennett watched with a mix of cautious optimism and deep resolve as volunteers with conditions like Parkinson's disease, spinal cord injuries, and severe epilepsy began receiving the latest generation of Neuralink implants. The implants were designed not only to restore lost function but to actively modulate neural circuits, reducing symptoms and enhancing quality of life. Early results were promising. One participant, Rachel, a former dancer paralyzed from the waist down, astonished her care team by regaining partial control over her legs within weeks. Another volunteer, Thomas, who had struggled with debilitating tremors, reported significant reduction in symptoms and renewed independence. These breakthroughs were more than medical victories, they were deeply human stories of hope, courage, and transformation. Maya made it a point to meet with volunteers regularly, hearing firsthand about their journeys. Rachel spoke of reclaiming freedom she thought forever lost, describing the sensation of Neuralink's interface as both strange and exhilarating, like waking up inside my own body again. Thomas shared how the implant gave him not only physical relief but renewed confidence, allowing him to reconnect with family and passions. These stories underscored the profound potential of neural technology to heal not just bodies but spirits. As therapeutic successes accumulated, Neuralink's research expanded to explore applications in mental health. Collaborating with psychiatrists and neuroscientists, the company initiated trials targeting treatment-resistant depression and PTSD, conditions that had long defied conventional therapies. Early findings suggested that precise modulation of specific neural circuits could alleviate symptoms with fewer side effects than medications. This opened new horizons for those suffering silently and deepened Neuralink's commitment to holistic well-being. Alongside these clinical advances, Maya's personal transformation was palpable. Her own experience living with a Neuralink implant had evolved from experimental curiosity to integral part of daily life. She found that the interface sharpened her cognitive clarity and emotional awareness, helping her navigate the intense pressures of leadership with greater resilience. Yet she remained grounded, mindful of the delicate balance between enhancement and authenticity. Maya often reflected on the philosophical questions her journey raised. What does it mean to be oneself when mind and machine merge? How does technology shape identity, agency, and connection? These reflections infused her leadership with empathy and vision. Neuralink's culture flourished as well. The company became a community where science, ethics, and humanity converged. Volunteers and employees shared stories, supported one another, and celebrated milestones together. Maya fostered an atmosphere that valued curiosity, compassion, and collaboration, empowering individuals to contribute their whole selves to the mission. The broader societal impact was tangible. Media narratives shifted from skepticism and fear to stories of empowerment and possibility. Families who had witnessed loved ones regain function and hope became vocal advocates. Policymakers praised Neuralink's rigorous safety standards and ethical commitments. Educational initiatives inspired young people to imagine futures where technology and humanity co-created new forms of healing and expression. Yet, Neuralink remained vigilant. Maya knew that the path forward was complex and ongoing challenges awaited. Questions of access and equity persisted, how to ensure that transformative neural therapies did not deepen societal divides but reached those most in need. Privacy concerns continued to demand robust safeguards. The company committed to continuous dialogue with diverse communities, co-designing solutions that honored varied values and experiences. Amid these challenges, Neuralink's next frontier was emerging. Augmenting cognition not just for therapy but for enrichment. Pilot programs explored enhancing memory, creativity, and learning in healthy individuals, raising new ethical and social questions. Maya insisted that such applications proceed with transparency, choice, and deep respect for individual autonomy. The story of Neuralink had become one of layered complexity, where triumphs intertwined with caution, innovation with reflection, and technology with deeply human narratives. In a quiet moment, Maya penned a letter to the Neuralink community. We stand at the threshold of possibilities once only dreamed of. Our work is a testament to human resilience and imagination. Together, we carry the responsibility to shape a future where technology amplifies our humanity, not diminishes it. As the sun rose on this new dawn, Neuralink embodied the fusion of science and soul, progress and prudence. The therapeutic triumphs and personal transformations were only the beginning of a journey toward understanding, connection, and hope, a journey that Maya and her community embraced with open minds and hearts. As Neuralink's technology matured and therapeutic successes mounted, the company, and Maya Bennett personally, found themselves standing at one of the most complex ethical crossroads in modern history. The very tools designed to heal and empower the mind also opened unprecedented possibilities for influence, control, and intrusion. The allure of mind control capabilities, once confined to science fiction, had edged closer to reality, sparking urgent moral debates inside and outside Neuralink's walls. The journey to this point had been gradual but inexorable. As implants gained finer control over neural circuits, the potential to modulate thoughts, emotions, and behaviors expanded. Early applications focused on alleviating pain, reducing anxiety, or restoring mobility, uses broadly embraced as compassionate and necessary. But as researchers explored augmenting memory, enhancing focus, or even transmitting thoughts and intentions, the lines blurred. Where did therapy end and manipulation begin? Who would wield the power to influence minds, and how could misuse be prevented? Maya convened a special advisory board, drawing together ethicists, neuroscientists, legal experts, volunteers, and civil rights advocates. Their mission, to explore the full spectrum of ethical challenges and develop principles to guide Neuralink's path. The discussions were often fraught, reflecting deep philosophical tensions about autonomy, privacy, consent, and identity. One core dilemma was consent. Neural interfaces interfaced so intimately with consciousness that truly informed consent required extraordinary clarity and ongoing dialogue. Could users fully grasp potential long-term impacts, especially when cognitive enhancement might alter perception itself? What protections were needed for vulnerable populations or those under coercive pressures? Another concern was privacy. Neural data, literally the fabric of thoughts and emotions, demanded the highest standards of security and confidentiality. Neuralink invested heavily in advanced encryption, decentralized data storage, and user-controlled permissions. Yet fears lingered about surveillance, hacking, or unauthorized influence. The specter of brain hacking became a topic of popular anxiety and policy debate. The ethical board debated the prospect of mind-reading capabilities. While some saw potential for revolutionary communication, helping those unable to speak or move express themselves, others warned of Orwellian misuse or loss of mental privacy. The importance of clear boundaries and opt-in controls was emphasized. The possibility of behavioral modification also raised red flags. Could implants be used to enforce conformity, suppress dissent, or manipulate beliefs? Historical abuses of technology underscored the need for strict safeguards against coercion or exploitation. Maya insisted that Neuralink's mission remained healing and empowerment, not control or domination. Equity emerged as another critical axis. As Neuralink's implants promised cognitive enhancement and new abilities, who would have access? Could the technology exacerbate existing social inequalities, creating a divide between the enhanced and the unenhanced? Maya championed policies to ensure affordability and accessibility, partnering with governments and nonprofits to broaden reach. The board also explored cultural and existential questions. How would neural interfaces reshape notions of identity, free will, and human experience? Would merging mind and machine change what it means to be human? These inquiries underscored the importance of humility and ongoing reflection. To translate these complex debates into actionable guidelines, the advisory board crafted a comprehensive ethical framework centered on core principles: respect for autonomy, privacy and data sovereignty, beneficence, doing good, non-maleficence, avoiding harm, justice, equity and fairness, transparency, and accountability. This framework was integrated into every aspect of Neuralink's research, development, and deployment. Neuralink also pioneered neural ethics impact assessments, a process akin to environmental impact reports but focused on potential psychological, social, and ethical consequences. Projects underwent rigorous evaluation before approval, incorporating volunteer feedback and independent review. Public engagement became a cornerstone of Neuralink's approach. Maya hosted interactive forums, educational workshops, and global conversations to demystify neural technology and build collective understanding. The company recognized that the ethical maze was not one it could navigate alone, it required broad societal dialogue and shared stewardship. Despite these efforts, tensions persisted. Critics warned that the allure of control and enhancement could tempt misuse by governments, corporations, or bad actors. Advocacy groups demanded stringent regulations and constant vigilance. Neuralink welcomed scrutiny, seeing it as essential to preventing abuses and building trust. Maya personally grappled with the profound weight of these dilemmas. She found solace in ongoing conversations with volunteers whose experiences humanized abstract questions. Their hopes, fears, and resilience reminded her that at the heart of every ethical decision was a person, unique, vulnerable, and deserving of respect. In a poignant moment, Maya reflected, we hold in our hands a technology that can reshape minds and societies. Our choices now will echo for generations. It is not just a question of what we can do, but what we should do. Neuralink's journey through the ethical crossroads was a testament to the complexity and promise of neural technology. By embracing transparency, collaboration, and deep ethical reflection, the company sought not only to innovate but to honor the dignity and freedom of every human mind it touched. The moral maze was vast and challenging, but it also offered a path toward a future where mind control, if it could be called that at all, was wielded with wisdom, compassion, and unwavering respect for humanity. The public reckoning with Neuralink's advances unfolded like a complex tapestry of awe, skepticism, hope, and fear. As news of mind control interfaces and therapeutic triumphs spread beyond scientific circles, society at large grappled with questions about identity, privacy, power, and what it truly meant to be human in a world where minds could be wired and influenced. Media coverage intensified, shaping public opinion in powerful and sometimes unpredictable ways. Headlines oscillated between celebratory stories of miraculous recoveries and cautionary tales warning of dystopian futures. The narrative was never simple. Television news programs featured interviews with Neuralink volunteers describing their renewed independence and hope. Documentaries showcased the science behind the technology, highlighting both its promise and pitfalls. Yet talk shows and opinion columns raised probing ethical questions, from concerns over mind hacking and corporate control to fears of widening social inequality. Maya Bennett found herself frequently in the spotlight, called upon to clarify, defend, and contextualize Neuralink's work. She approached these moments with transparency and empathy, acknowledging the legitimate fears while underscoring the potential for healing and empowerment. Maya stressed that Neuralink was not a company seeking control but a community committed to ethical innovation and human dignity. Social media amplified the conversation with rapid-fire debates, personal testimonies, and viral stories. Supporters celebrated the technology as a leap forward for human potential, while detractors cautioned about unintended consequences. Online forums became virtual town halls, where voices from diverse backgrounds converged to question, challenge, and sometimes champion Neuralink. This digital dialogue shaped public perception and influenced policy discussions. The education sector also engaged deeply with Neuralink's impact. Schools and universities incorporated neuroscience, ethics, and technology studies into curricula, encouraging students to critically examine the promises and perils of neural interfaces. Some institutions hosted debates and simulations exploring future scenarios, preparing the next generation to navigate a world transformed by mind-machine connections. Policymakers faced intense pressure to regulate the emerging technology thoughtfully yet flexibly. Legislators sought guidance from Neuralink and independent experts to craft laws addressing safety, privacy, consent, equity, and oversight. Public hearings brought forward testimonies from volunteers, scientists, ethicists, activists, and industry leaders. The resulting regulatory frameworks aimed to strike a balance, enabling innovation while protecting individual rights and societal values. Maya actively participated in these policy dialogues, advocating for frameworks that were adaptable, transparent, and inclusive. She emphasized the importance of involving diverse stakeholders to ensure fair and just governance of neural technology. The business world observed Neuralink's trajectory with keen interest. Investors and tech companies evaluated potential partnerships and competition, navigating a landscape fraught with ethical and reputational risks. Neuralink's commitment to ethics became a differentiator, attracting collaborators aligned with its values. Still, commercial pressures sometimes clashed with the company's cautious approach, requiring constant vigilance to maintain integrity. Within communities directly affected by Neuralink, profound social and cultural shifts unfolded. Volunteers and their families experienced new dynamics as neural interfaces altered communication, cognition, and relationships. Some struggled with identity questions, wondering how much the technology changed who they were. Support networks and counseling services grew to address these challenges, emphasizing resilience and self-acceptance. Religious and philosophical groups also entered the conversation, exploring how neural technologies intersected with beliefs about the soul, free will, and human nature. Some embraced the technology as a tool for healing and enlightenment, others warned of hubris and loss of sacred boundaries. These diverse perspectives enriched public discourse and deepened societal reflection. The arts responded vibrantly as well. Writers, filmmakers, and visual artists drew inspiration from Neuralink's story, creating works that explored themes of connection, transformation, and ethical tension. These cultural expressions helped humanize the technological revolution and sparked empathy across audiences. For Maya, witnessing this vast public reckoning was both inspiring and humbling. She recognized that Neuralink was part of a larger human story, one of innovation entwined with values, hope balanced by caution. In private moments, she reflected on how the company's journey mirrored society's own wrestling with change and uncertainty. Neuralink had ignited a profound dialogue about the future of humanity, one that transcended technology to touch the very core of identity, freedom, and connection. In a widely watched interview, Maya summarized this sentiment: Neuralink is not just about the mind or machines. It's about what it means to be human in an era where our greatest strengths and deepest vulnerabilities are intertwined. This conversation belongs to all of us, because our future depends on the choices we make together. As the public reckoning continued, Neuralink remained committed to openness, ethical reflection, and partnership. The company's story had evolved beyond innovation alone, it had become a shared journey toward understanding, respect, and hope for a future where technology could enhance, not diminish, the human spirit. Neuralink's journey came full circle as Maya Bennett stood before a room filled with innovators, volunteers, policymakers, and curious minds, all gathered to reflect on a decade of breakthroughs, trials, and profound transformations. The story that had begun with cautious hope and a spark of curiosity now bore the weight of lived experience, complex lessons, and a vision for the future. Maya's opening words captured the spirit of the moment. We set out to connect minds and machines to heal and empower. What we discovered was not just technology, but the essence of human resilience, empathy, and responsibility. The legacy Neuralink would leave was multifaceted. Medically, the company had revolutionized treatment for neurological disorders once deemed untreatable. Thousands of lives had been changed, families reunited, independence restored, suffering eased. These therapeutic triumphs were perhaps Neuralink's most tangible and celebrated impact. Yet the journey was far from linear or simple. Each advance had revealed new ethical questions, social challenges, and personal transformations that demanded humility and ongoing dialogue. Neuralink had not only pioneered cutting-edge neural interfaces but also forged a new model of ethical innovation, one grounded in transparency, collaboration, and respect for individual dignity. Reflecting on the early days, Maya acknowledged the fears and skepticism that had accompanied Neuralink's emergence. Public mistrust, media sensationalism, and regulatory hurdles had tested the company's resolve. But by embracing openness and centering the voices of volunteers, the company built bridges of trust. "We learned that technology alone can't change the world," Maya explained. "It's the people, their stories, their courage, their humanity, that shape what's possible." The personal transformations witnessed among volunteers were equally profound. Individuals like Rachel, who had regained mobility, and Thomas, who found freedom from debilitating tremors, became symbols of hope and proof of neural technology's potential. Yet they also faced complex questions of identity as their minds and bodies adapted to the interface. Support systems had grown to help navigate these challenges, recognizing that healing was holistic, embracing body, mind, and spirit. Neuralink's experience underscored that technology's impact extends beyond function to touch the core of what it means to be human. Maya's reflections also embraced the broader societal lessons. Neuralink had catalyzed global conversations about privacy, consent, equity, and the nature of free will. These dialogues had energized new policies and cultural awareness, emphasizing that technological progress must be accompanied by ethical stewardship. The company's commitment to inclusivity and accessibility sought to prevent new divides, ensuring that neural enhancements would not become privileges of the few but opportunities for many. Looking ahead, Neuralink's future was both exhilarating and uncertain. Research continued into cognitive enhancement, brain-to-brain communication, and integration with artificial intelligence, frontiers promising to redefine human potential. Maya emphasized a cautious optimism, grounded in lessons learned. As we push boundaries, we must never lose sight of empathy, respect, and responsibility. Neuralink planned to deepen partnerships with diverse communities, fostering co-creation and shared governance to shape the trajectory of neural technology together. The story of Neuralink had also sparked a cultural renaissance, inspiring artists, philosophers, and educators to explore new dimensions of human experience and connection. This flourishing dialogue enriched society's imagination and resilience, preparing humanity for profound transformation. In closing her address, Maya shared a poignant message: "Our journey has shown that technology is not destiny. It is a tool, a mirror reflecting our highest hopes and deepest fears. The future we create depends on the choices we make, together, with courage and compassion." As applause filled the room, the sense of a new chapter began, not just for Neuralink but for humanity itself. The legacy was one of courage in the face of uncertainty, of listening to diverse voices, and of holding fast to the belief that technology can serve to elevate the human spirit. Neuralink's story was no longer just a tale of machines and minds, it was a story of connection, resilience, and hope. The final words Maya wrote in her personal journal that evening captured the essence of this journey: "In linking brains and machines, we have learned to link hearts and minds across divides." That is the true promise of Neuralink, a future where technology and humanity walk forward, hand in hand. The sun set on this chapter, but the horizon was bright with possibility. An unfolding story that humanity would write together, embracing the profound potential of the mind, the machine, and the spirit. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?